Can you stop sharing your screen there?
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, and welcome to the March 7th edition of the Kubernetes community meeting. If you are new here, or this is your first time in a while, please remember that this meeting is probably live streamed and saved for perpetuity for all to see. So make sure that your comments are shareable with everyone, including your mom, because I will show her them. We are going to jump right into things. Today with our demo is Jesse Stewin from Intuit with Argo CD. Take it away, Jesse.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yes.
All right, great. So hi, my name is Jesse, and I have my colleague Alex here on the line. And today we'll be talking about Argo CD. So Argo CD is part of the Argo project, which is a collection of open source utilities, controllers, and DevOps tools for Kubernetes. We're most known for Argo Workflows, which is a batch processing workflow engine analogous to Kubernetes jobs. There's also Argo Events, which is a Kubernetes eventing framework being led by a team in BlackRock. But today I'll be talking about Argo CD. And one important point is that Argo CD is completely separate from Argo Workflows, and the only thing they have in common is the name Argo. Okay, so Argo CD. Argo CD is a declarative GitOps deployment tool for Kubernetes. If you're unfamiliar with GitOps, basically GitOps is a method of continuous delivery where you use Git as your single source of truth to describe your desired state of applications and infrastructure. And we started Argo CD a little over a year ago when Intuit was just beginning its journey into Kubernetes. And a lot of its features were built to meet a lot of the enterprise requirements, such as single sign-on, RBAC, multi-tenancy, the ability to manage multiple clusters. And a lot of design choices were made around the model where you have like a handful of very large shared multi-tenant clusters, and then developer teams are given, say, a namespace in one or more of these clusters. So how Argo CD works, basically Argo CD introduces a concept of application, and I'll show you the spec of that application. And an application describes two things. One, what you want to deploy, which is a reference to a location in Git, and two, where you want to deploy to. And this is like a Kubernetes server and a namespace. And inside your Git repo, you can describe your manifest in any format you want. We have first-class support for customize, Helm, case on it, JSON it, just a plain directory of YAML or JSON. And we just recently added support for running custom user-defined tools to generate your manifests. All right, so this is Argo CD. So the first thing you might notice is that we support single sign-on. The single sign-on is powered by DEX, which used to be managed by CoreOS. And this allows Argo CD to integrate with virtually all forms of SSO, including SAML, LDAP, OIDC, OAuth, and so on. My instance happens to be configured to log in using GitHub OAuth. All right, so now that I'm logged in, you can see these are all the apps that I currently have deployed using Argo CD. And I'll be creating a new guestbook app from example repository that we have. This is basically a Git repository of a bunch of guestbook apps in various forms, like a case on it version, a Helm version, customize 1, customize 2, and I'll be just doing the customized guestbook. So I'll go ahead and create a new application. It's called guestbook. I'm referencing that Git repository. Once I have that Git repository, it scans the repository for all like Helm charts, customized apps, and it presents it in this dropdown. So let's use the customize 2. I'm going to deploy it to the same cluster that Argo CD is currently running in. And I'm not going to customize any other parameters. All right. So now that I created the app, you'll see that it starts out in a out of sync condition, and that's just because we haven't deployed it. To sync it, I can either manually sync it, or I can enable automated sync. And automated sync is essentially whenever Argo CD detects a difference from what's in Git to what's running in the cluster, it'll just automatically apply those changes. So I'll do that. I'll go that route. I'll just enable auto sync. And so as soon as I enabled this, oops, let me get rid of these filters. Yeah, as soon as I enable autosync, you saw that it applied those manifests, and this is essentially the application. You can see it's comprised of a service and a deployment, and Argo CD shows those relationships between the other objects, like a replica set and a pod. And so now, once this is running, let's actually make a change in Git to update like the image tag. So I'll go ahead and change. Let's bump up replicas to 5. I also want to maybe introduce progress deadline. I'll give 15 seconds. And I'm going to change the image to version 3. Okay. So I committed that repo, and right away that you'll see that there's a webhook configured from Git to Argo CD. And as soon as I made that change in Git, Argo CD was notified about that change, and it automatically started deploying that because of automated sync. But something went wrong. So we have this. So right now, Argo CD is reporting a status of degraded. And one feature of Argo CD is that we have a concept of health for various resource kinds. So as the built-in kinds, new Kubernetes kinds like deployments, stateful sets, daemon sets, services, ingress, jobs, pods, we have built-in health checks for those. And just recently, we added support where you can actually define your own health assessment logic on custom resource definitions in the form of Lua scripts. So for example, just recently we added health checks for a cert manager, certificate, and issuers. So with that feature, Argo CD can show like health of certs. So to debug this, we can click on a resource, we can look at its events, and right here I can see that it has an image pull back off. And I happen to know that there doesn't exist a 0.3 guestbook. So let's fix this. I'm gonna disable autosync because I want to roll back. And so from the history of the application, I can see what was deployed and roll back to the previous version. Okay, so as you see, things are happening. It's going back to the previous version, and we are now back in a healthy state, but we are currently out of sync. And this is expected because our desired state in Git is showing those changes that I made, where I bumped the replicas to 5 and changed the image tag, and you can see the diff by clicking on one of the resources. Okay, so that's a very quick overview of Argo CD. some of the other features that I wanted to highlight were Argo CD supports a concept of pre and post sync hooks. These are similar in concept to Helm lifecycle hooks, and it gives you a way to interject custom logic in the form of like jobs, pods, workflows before, during, and after a sync. And internally, people use this to do things like database migrations as part of a sync. Also, Intuit has a lot of compliance and regulatory things. So Argo CD emits all kinds of events to be logged for auditing requirements. So basically lets you identify what happened, when it happened, and what was the outcome. Lastly, Argo CD exports Prometheus metrics about like when the frequency of synchronizations, API requests and responses, and stuff like that. I'll stop here, and if there's any questions about Argo CD, I'd be happy to answer.
Got about 30 seconds for questions. Anybody? Going once. Go. Oh. Bob Killen would like to point out this is also used behind the scenes for Kubeflow.
Oh. Yes, I know Kubeflow uses workflows, and we have been working with them on like for GitOps, for people interested in doing GitOps with Kubeflow too. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much, Jesse. We appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Next up with release updates is the one and only head of SigBeard, Aaron Krickenberger.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, Chris. So today's cat t-shirt, in honor of it being code freeze, is like the cat iceberg, the iceberg of cats. And cats are all doing all sorts of fun stuff here. Come find me later if you want to get a closer look at that.
I approve.
So there's that. I made some slides. I also dropped some things in the meeting notes, so you can follow along there if you would like. Let me do the thing where I mess around with my screen for a second. Let's see here. Do that. Do that. Okay, so this is week 9 of the Kubernetes 1.14 release cycle. We're still in Burndown. Burndown is where we try to burn everything down. So if I click this link here, it takes me to the docs that describes what Burndown is. But as a reminder, this is where we start to, I'll just blow that up for a second. You can join the Kubernetes SIG release mailing list to get an invite to Burndown meetings. And we're going to start to, you probably can't hear me very well. Let's see if that helps. We're going to start to ask that people from certain SIGs show up if necessary, just to help us identify what issues really need to be dealt with and how. So there are some of you out there who are probably thinking, I should write some docs for my features. Specifically, there are probably 7 of you out there who have docs PRs that are sitting in a work in progress state. And this is because you were all super amazing and brought out your docs in time for March 1st. The next deadline you should be aware of is March 11th. That's Monday, March 11th, Monday on a Pacific time schedule. We'd really like you to have these docs ready for review so the docs team can take a look at them. So if you know anybody who's working on docs for things like Kubadium upgrade, Kubadium HA documentation, CSI raw block to beta, things of that nature, probably make sure that they're aware of this if members of the release team haven't already reached out to them. I wonder why this slide didn't load. Oh, because it's huge. So code freeze is coming. Code freeze is actually here today. It's end of day, March 7th. I'm not sure how many of you are actually listening to what I'm saying right now because of the amazing lyrics, that Jeffrey's Jiffy wrote, one of the release team docs people, and Catherine Barry, who's one of your new Slack admins, put to a wonderful cinema meme. But this is pretty amazing. I've been trying to do a meme a day on Twitter to spread awareness that code freeze is coming, and this is the final one. So let's talk a little bit about what code freeze means here. If you want to find out more information about what code freeze is, it's in our release docs. Code freeze, all enhancements must be code complete, including tests, by Thursday, March 7th. At this point, or after this point, only release blocking issues and PRs will be allowed into the milestone. And that tweet, if you want to see it, is linked here. You can get to the slides here. You can go look for my Twitter thread. Big round of applause to Catherine and Jeffrey Sicca for that. Okay, other things about the release schedule. The release schedule intensifies at this point. We have a lot more meetings. We start daily Burndown meetings, Monday through Friday, starting next week. The plan is to have the Tuesday and Thursday meetings be at a European-friendly time of 8 a.m. Pacific. So as I said earlier, join the Kubernetes release team calendar if you want invites to that. The reason these intensify is because we're going to start pruning a lot more aggressively. So we're going to be pruning enhancements, we're going to be pruning issues, and we're going to be pruning PRs. So let's talk about enhancements real fast. Of the 31 enhancements that are currently slated for release, 16 of them are listed at risk. I believe the majority of these are listed at risk because it's unclear whether or not they have test plans, or it's unclear whether or not the docs that they need are landing. If anybody from the enhancements team has reached out to you, please be sure to respond. I believe that Claire and Lockie and Craig, and I'm forgetting everybody on the enhancements team, have started reaching out to people directly on Slack because GitHub notifications can be very noisy. But please do be responsive. Not being responsive to requests on these things is what causes us to start deciding maybe we shouldn't talk about your enhancements, that sort of thing. The other thing to keep in mind is, the pull requests that are currently slated for the 114 milestone. There are about 43 of them. So if we turned on code freeze right now, these are all of the PRs remaining to be merged. I'm going to caution that maybe some of these maybe aren't super ready to be in here. Maybe we'll start talking about taking the 8 size XXL PRs that still haven't managed to land because, I don't know, they're failing their tests, or they still have merge conflicts or things of that nature. Maybe are no longer really considered ready for this release. So just look for a lot more attention. Please work with us, and remember that the goal of code freeze is to take the existing set of code that we have and make it more stable and make it ready for release. On a related note, I don't know if any of you have looked at our CI signal lately, but there seem to be a number of flaking and failing tests. You may be aware of this if you have taken a look at their weekly CI signal report sent out to the Kubernetes dev mailing list, where they keep track of what flakes are out there. And you may also be aware of this if you notice that they have a CI signal board where they keep track of all of the flakes and continuously failing tests that are out there. Loosely speaking, we are applying the priority critical urgent label to any test failure or flake that involves a release blocking job. This label means that somebody should be doing the work of solving this instead of whatever they were doing before. Priority critical urgent is the most important thing to do. One of the things I'd like to bring to our attention is the fact that the one of the more bog standard jobs is flaking continuously. So this is called GCE COS default, whatever. It stands up a Kubernetes cluster and it runs all of the end-to-end tests that are not disruptive. They aren't slow. They aren't flaky in theory, and they don't require any extra special features. And if I take my handy dandy test grid options here, or sorry, size, and turn it into super compact just to try and drive the point home here, the top line here is all red. It's almost all failing. And all of these little red things here are individual test cases that are failing at one time or another. The point that I'm trying to make here is that I can't point to any one clear and obvious test as the cause of us being unable to successfully see this job go red. This is really critically important for us because as we look to qualify some code ready to go out the door, we need to make sure that that code can actually reliably pass tests. And the proxy we use for that is can the tests pass 3 times in a row for the same commit of code? And the answer right now for this is no. Another way that this is especially important here on the on the 114 blocking dashboard because this box up here that's changing as I'm flipping around is the commit on the release 114 branch. It changes as our release branch manager fast forwards daily. So we're getting good data on like how flaky this particular commit is. I'm just pointing out this one test. There are actually many other tests that are failing, and I encourage those of you who are reached out to by our CI Signal team to please pay attention. That is all that I have. Any questions?
Any questions for Aaron?
I was this close to trying to actually sing the song, but I just really don't feel like I could have done it justice. So
I feel like we would need like a good singer for that. Not that you're not fantastic at singing or anything, Aaron. I'm sure you are, but I mean, like that takes some octaves that I feel like you might not have.
Yes. So again, extra special shout outs. That was amazing. It completely made my day.
Yes, that was great. Thank you so much. I'm really sad that Google Docs kind of choked on that, but oh well. All right, next up is Contributor Tip of the Week by our trusty George Castro, if he's there.
I am. 1 second. All right, so I'm going to share something with y'all real quick. All right, does everybody see that? Okay, so
Sure.
This is something Guinevere Sanger's been working on. She's not here, so I am just presenting this for her. This is her and Josh and Tim and a bunch of people who work around the new contributor workshop. So this is Kubernetes-SIG's contributor-playground. It is a place for new contributors to basically practice doing pull requests, and a bot will talk to them, and they can practice all the kind of stuff that they need to learn before doing a real pull request on a Kubernetes repository. So what we're doing is socializing that people can practice here in a safe place, get help, and not worry about clogging up the official repos and stuff with spelling fixes and whatnot. So mostly this isn't something that most of the people on this call probably wouldn't use, but if you could help us socialize that this exists as we integrate this into all of our instructions and your contributor documentation and all of that stuff, it would really help us out. And that's all I have for the tip of the week.
Thank you, George. I really appreciate it. Also, thank you to everyone that is working on that. I think it's super cool. Next up, some SIG updates. By the way, SIG leads. There's a schedule out there. There's slide templates out there. They're all in these notes. Please look at them and please review them. The schedule is very, very full, and your slot will just go to the next time that it's available. So don't miss your opportunity to present to this meeting. All right, our first SIG update, actual SIG update from a SIG is IBM Cloud with Sada Zala and Richard Diaz.
Yep, let me share my screen. And can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay, perfect. All right, so hey, Chris, hello, everyone. Today, myself, Sahadev Zala, and Richard will be providing the updates for SIG IBM Cloud. So what we did in last cycle, we created our SIG charter, and it is merged now. It's available out there. Thanks to steering committee, especially Aaron, for reviewing and helping us make it good. We still need to work on that going forward as we do some of the things we are working on in the SIG. Cloud provider work, we've been regularly participating and contributing to the cloud provider SIG. And one of the things, the charter is a little bit thin. We don't have a busy SIG is because we don't have our cloud provider code on the external repo. It's there internally. So we, during the last cycle, we started working on getting the internal approvals to make those codes available externally. And we made some good progress there. We actually have a great news to share there, but I won't steal the thunder from Richard, as we'll be giving updates on it in the next slide. The KubeCon, this is our first updates after KubeCon, so I'm just mentioning it here. The KubeCon Seattle, we had a good participation with the SIG activities. Richard and I have created a blog post, which is over there. The link is in the presentation, and the presentation link is in the community meeting agenda. So some of the things we cover in the blog is, overview of what we present in the introduction and deep dive with links with, for the recording on the YouTube. We also had a cloud provider specific activities. We had a SIG-Litz dinner there, so we have a little bit detail on that in the blog post. And also the SIG meet and greet session was a great event for us, and I think for everybody. But we met new contributors, especially folks like Marky Jackson from SysDig. We founded there the SIG meet and greet, and he is now a regular contributor to the SIG IBM Cloud and joining the meetings regularly. Thanks to a lot of great folks we have in the admin side, especially George, Paris. We're having our bi-weekly meetings regularly. We run into a little bit problem with the YouTube uploads, but thanks to George, again, a big thanks to him and Jiffy. I asked Jiffy about his, he goes by Jeffrey and he's like, no, go with Jiffy. So that's what Aaron mentioned earlier. So yep, thanks to Jiffy. So YouTube video link is out there as well. Plans for upcoming cycles. So this is the slides Richard will be talking. So to you, Richard.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so the good news is just today we had our approval internally done from IBM to our cloud provider. So that's the item we'll be working on in this upcoming cycle here, is to take our internal repo, make it externally consumable, push that out, and then we'll have to change some things internally here on our build process side for our cloud provider is being used currently in our service offering for IBM Cloud. But we're continuing working on that. One of the biggest changes that we're working with the community as well on the transition to the Cloud Controller Manager architecture. So we'll be working on those changes in our cloud providers for this next cycle. We'll be writing a CAP for the IBM Cloud Provider. And then we continue to support the effort in the Cloud Provider SIG to consolidate the Cloud Provider SIGs into under the one Cloud Provider SIG umbrella with a proposal having user groups or working groups or whatever the end result will be there, but that is being put together as we speak. So those are our areas of focus for the upcoming cycle, and that's all I have for now. Sadaf, back to you.
Yep, thanks, Richard. And that's actually pretty much it. We have that was a quick update. So you can find us on the Slack, Khalid, Richard, and myself. We are the 3 co-leads right now. There are a bunch of links given here for the homepage and Slack server and the mailing list. So please reach out to us if you have any questions, want to have participation in the SIG and all the great stuff. That's pretty much it. Chris, thanks, and back to you unless we have any questions. But I think I can go ahead and stop my sharing here.
Yes, thank you, Sada. Any questions for the group here? Nope. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate the update, and thank you for all the slides and notes in the docs as well. Next up is Jonathan Burkham from SIG Service Catalog.
You guys see this fine?
Yes.
Okay. Hey everybody, so I work on SIG Service Catalog, which is a Kubernetes incubator project that extends Kubernetes to implement the Open Service Broker API. So what did we do last cycle? So we've been coming out and expanding our repertoire of custom resources that our extension project implements and extending those to namespace versions of those resources. That's been sort of the big feature work that we've been working on since the last meeting. Still in flight though. We also presented intro and deep dive sessions at KubeCon Seattle. Got a lot of participation in those actually, to the point that we actually had some new contributors join up from SAP from the interaction we had at Seattle, so that's nice. And they've started work on transitioning to CRDs. So we currently have our own API server and host our own etcd, just because of how old the project is. And we're interested in transitioning to CRDs, but now we've actually started working on it. What are we looking forward to do in the near future? So we're hoping to finish up namespace resources. That's going to be a 0.20, which is probably going to be our last major release before going GA. After that, we're looking forward to 1.0. Whether or not CRDs are going to happen before 1.0, there's still a content of discussion, so it's kind of still up in the air. And outside of the CRD question, it's mostly just minor fixes, documentation, that sort of stuff. Most of the major feature work's actually already done. We are still in the process of moving tests onto Prow. We still have some legacy infrastructure left over that we just need to transition. So still working on that. New co-chair. I'm actually a new co-chair. This is the first meeting I've been to. So we had some of the contributors to the project, mostly from Microsoft and Google, have sort of moved on to other things. So we've lost some of our co-chairs, some of our contributors, but we're already on the up and up. We've gotten, like I said, the new contributors from SAP, also potentially some new contributors from Google. But we're sort of in a bad spot right now because we have very few actual maintainers, so we're trying to get them boosted up so they can actually participate and drive action forward. How these plans affect you? Service catalog is fairly self-contained. I didn't really know what to put on here, so I don't know. Probably not going to affect the other SIGs very much, except for maybe teams that manage CRD stuff, which is actually something I wanted to talk to. If anybody here knows anybody who's worked on CRDs, like actually using them, particularly if it was a migration of a non-CRD project to using CRDs, we could probably use some help. So I'd love to chat with you if there's anybody like that. And then, yeah, these are just the notes for how you can contribute. The easiest way to get into things is probably to show up to our weekly meeting on Mondays. I've linked a couple good first issues here, but again, I don't know. It's an extension project, so it's kind of weird and different from the rest of Kubernetes, so you probably want to come have a chat before you pick anything up. And then where to find us. So I'm Jonathan. I'm one of the chairs. Jay Boyd's the other current chair from Red Hat. There's our homepage, Slack channel, our mailing list, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Would you mind dropping a link to your slides in the notes? You have a second?
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you. All right. And now, announcements. Is everyone super excited for announcements? Because I know I am. All right. There is a LTS working group. They have a survey out there. There's a link to the survey in the community meeting notes. Please take it, share it. Make sure that it has wide dissemination and that they get all the possible data they can. And the next announcement, I will have Jordan Liggett himself deliver, please.
Hey, this is a multiple release ahead of time fair warning that the 2.5-year-old issue to stop serving extensions v1 beta 1 is making progress. And the deprecated APIs in that API group, we plan to stop serving by default in 1.16. So this is 3 releases out. We will say this again. We will say it loudly. We will say it on the mailing list. We will say it in the release notes. We will say it over and over. But it's never too soon to start migrating your manifests to the GA versions of these things. So start doing it now.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jordan. George, do you want to take the next one or just let me do it?
Yeah, just real quick, we're about 1 or 2 moderators short in Europe and Asia Pacific still. So the idea is, as soon as Slack fixes their exploit, we should be able to turn on new Slack signups. So we're still looking for Europe and APAC. I just want to mention that the job isn't just sitting there signing up to a bunch of channels. It's more of a reactory role. So if you're sitting at work anyway and you're on Slack, it's very, very low maintenance. So please consider signing up. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, George. Yes, and please sign up.
Oh, and Paris would like to remind us that we need moderators for YouTube and Zoom as well.
Yes, and where do people sign up for that, George?
The sign up is in the link in the notes, and I'll toss it in chat. You follow an issue in K community, basically. The instructions are there.
Awesome. Much appreciated. All right. Shout outs. Let's begin. Aaron Krickeberger shouts out to Omichi for his continued review of Kubernetes tests end-to-end PRs. He's helped land over 30 PRs this release cycle, including some conformance tests. Thank you very much. Lachlan Evanston shouts out to Ben the Elder and Munners. Don't know how I would pronounce that otherwise. And the Kind team for all the great work that's gone into the Kind tools and docs. It's radically changed my inner loop for testing code changes in Kubernetes. Thanks. Lachlan also shouts out to Clarence for being an awesome enhancements lead on the 114 release team. She's taken the time to coach all the shadows and has been diligently grooming the 33 features in the Hopper for 114. Cheers from your fellow enhancement shadows. Paris Pittman would like to shout out the upstream mentoring panelists on our Meet Our Contributors meeting yesterday. Mike Splain, Carolyn, Dems, DirectX Man 12, and a Sigum. Sorry, I don't know your real names. Dems would also like to thank Paris and George, the hosts for the Meet Our Contributors meeting. I would like to personally thank Bob Killen for stepping in to take notes the past 2 weeks in the Kubernetes community meetings. I really appreciate it. 3 parrots to you, sir. And Nikita shouts out to Jiffy and Catherine for the wonderful video and tweets from Aaron. Thank you very much for that. Are there any other announcements or shout outs? It does not appear to be anything else. So, George, thank you for the link. Everybody, have a wonderful rest of your week and enjoy the rest of the time that was allotted for this meeting. Thank you very much, and goodbye.